Here we're looking at our first tank. We're going to be going from left to right. So this is our first 20 gallon we're looking at here. It has Vienna Guppies and pumpkin orange shrimp in it. So Vienna Guppies and pumpkin orange shrimp are the creatures, the fish and invertebrates. And then it is carpeted with pearlweed. Now a lot of people ask what our plant in our tubs is because they can't figure out what it is. It's pearlweed. It just looks different outside than inside. And obviously you can float or carpet this plant. Now we don't have cories in this tank as they will uproot the pearlweed. It's not a very strong rooting plant. It's a floating plant. It's a column feeder. So getting it to carpet is a little tricky. It can be done. You just can't do it in tanks where the fish will uproot the plant. Other than that, this is a packed Vienna tank. And there's a few pumpkin orange shrimp left in here. Unfortunately, this is one of 4 tanks that had pumpkin orange shrimp, and for whatever reason, in this one they did not do as great after the move. There's still a few in there, however. So yeah, this is a great looking tank, and we'll just appreciate this for another minute before we move on to the one to its right. Our next tank is the Indo snakeskin dragon guppy. The Indo stands for Indonesian. This is also a 20 gallon long. Now we do have cories in this tank. Those are just emerald cories. There's some big ones in there. And actually this morning we just pulled some cory eggs from this tank as well. So we have our 3 different kinds of plants in here. We have Alternanthera renekii, which is the red plant. We have hornwort, which is the floating plant. And we have Bias nana petite in the back growing on the sponge filter. This tank's done very well. We actually have 2 inside tanks of this guppy and 1 outdoor pond. So you can see right now we're gonna look at some of these fry in here, and yeah, the water is going to be a bit cloudy in some of these tanks because we are in the middle of feeding them breakfast. Those are freeze-dried bloodworms, and you can just press them onto the side of the tank. Sometimes they stick, sometimes they kind of float away, but either way is fine. Now, none of these inside tanks currently have CO2 running in them, so these are all just root tabbed or nutrients and light, and of course oxygen from the air pump, but no CO2 currently. That is being planned. We have the tank. We just need to set up and run all the lines and probably get a few more diffusers, and if you guys run CO2, you know those diffusers add up quickly. Alright, so our next 20 gallon long on this first rack on the very top right is our baby Corydora grow out tank. So this tank is strictly for juvenile Corydora. They grow here in a safe environment until they get large enough to not be eaten, and then they get sorted and moved into a tank that needs them, as we still need more Corydora in a lot of our tanks, and we might as well not buy them if we can breed them. So currently we have 3 different types being raised in here. We have peppered, emerald, and albino. These babies have just been pulled kind of steadily over the course of the last few weeks. This is a great way to make sure they all survive, or as many as you can survive. Otherwise, your guppies and cories will actually eat the eggs instead of, them hatching and growing. You can see just how small they are when they hatch. Alright, moving to the bottom row of rack 1, we have our guppy grass and pumpkin orange shrimp tank you guys might remember from Colorado. Now this tank is doing fantastic. There's nothing crazy or complicated about it. We have no cories in here. We have one fish that somehow got in there from, I don't really know where, so we're waiting for that to grow up so we can try to identify it. Other than that, it's just guppy grass and pumpkin orange shrimp. No CO2, we have a sponge filter running, and we have hang-on back filters on all of these as well. So, double filtration there. But these shrimp are doing fantastic. They're colorful, vibrant, and they're all eating and grooming, which is what you'd expect from them. Here, in another 20-gallon long, we have our albino red lace guppies. These are very beautiful guppies, very hard to breed. They seem to be very picky about wanting to drop fry. I know that can be frustrating, as I know many of you also deal with that. So we do too with select strains, but they are being a little camera shy today. Unfortunately, normally they're very friendly. This morning they're just feeling a little camera shy, so we're gonna have to peek back there and see if we can catch some glimpses of them. We have 2 males and about 6 females in this 20-gallon long, full of Rotala rotundifolia. That is the plant we are looking at. And it also has cories in it. It used to have shrimp in it, but we took those out before the move. It also used to have Alternanthera reneki in it, but we also moved that around to some other tanks. So this is just a Rotala tank. For the last tank on this rack, we have a 10-gallon full of blue galaxy guppies. Now, unfortunately, about a week or two ago, something went really wrong in this tank. We're not sure what. Our colony collapsed. Most of our guppies died of this strain, unfortunately, and so did all the plants in the tank. It was very weird. I've never seen anything quite like that before. It was just in a matter of hours something happened. But we have managed to have a trio of blue galaxy guppies survive, so we are going to try to breed them back out. Unfortunately, it looks like they are going to be a little shy today. Looks like we could get a look at one juvenile female, but I don't know how much we're going to be able to see in this tank. Moving on to rack 2, first tank, we have red Mosaic dragon guppies in a 29-gallon. Now in this tank is where you will also see some Threadfin red Mosaic dragon guppies. You can see how vibrant and red these fish turn out to be when they mature. The juveniles will start off as a completely different color. They start off with no color, and then they get kind of turn like yellow and black, and then they eventually mature into the orange-red with black spots. So if you receive your fish and it has a little bit of yellow on it, it'll probably mature into the right coloration. Most guppies mature into their adult coloration and go through a spectrum of color. Now occasionally they are born with the same coloration and pattern as the adult form, but that is a rare occurrence comparatively. We're going to give the Corys in this tank their own little video because we've never shown them before, or not video, but section of this video, as they deserve to be featured. The second tank in this rack, and the last one for the top row, is the Albino full red Guppies and these Sturby Corydora. Now, just like I was saying, this is another 29-gallon. It has Ludwigia repens as one of the plants, Taiwan lilies, and pearlweed. Corys in this tank are huge and beautiful, a great addition to this really show tank. It's just a beautiful tank with the fish and the Corys and the plants. It's also some random plants we don't sell or have any other tanks in this tank as well. I'm not sure of the names of those, unfortunately. The albino full red guppy is incredibly vibrant, very full coloration on it. It is, however, a very difficult fish to breed. They just don't reproduce like some of our other strains, and when we do get them in or have them breed and raise them and get them ready for sale, they generally sell out within a few days of being available. So that's why we don't normally film them too much, as we don't normally have them available. But we're doing the best we can with them. Sitting on rack 2, on the bottom row, is the juveniles of the red Mosaic dragons above them. So you can see what I was talking about here, where you see some yellow in the tails. The younger the fish, the more yellow they're going to have in that coloration. Now each fish will get color at a different rate. Some of them will do it, as early as 2 weeks. and even of the same strain, and some of them can take up to 90 days to get their coloration. It really is depending on the fish, how well they're fed, and just their particular genetics. Our last tank for Rack 2 has more Vienna Guppies, Taiwan lilies, and pumpkin orange shrimp. This is not a very heavily stocked tank. It's mainly used for breeding purposes. I put a few larger females in here, some good looking males, and used it just to breed out more. You'll find out that the more crowded an aquarium or pond is, at some point your fish will run into a natural population cap where they stop reproducing. So having, clearing out tanks, making sure they're nice and balanced and everything's healthy and happy is key to breeding more guppies. Next up on our third rack, top tank is a 29-gallon tank full of very mature adult Vienna Guppies. As for our plants, we have baby Amazon sword plant, Taiwan lilies, Alternanthera reneki, and hornwort. Now we have it planted in this tank. It is similar to pearlweed as it's not a very strong rooter, so it's mainly a column feeder. Any fish that strongly uproot plants will probably uproot this plant, but if you have all small fish, it will do fine planted if you want that look as well. Below the 29-gallon Vienna tank, we have more Indo snakeskin dragons. This is a very busy tank, and it's basically just packed with some Maiaca fluviatilis and some pearlweed. Nothing fancy going on in this tank, but the fish are loving it. fourth rack, on the bottom tank, we have our albino sunrise Topaz Guppies. This is one of the only strains we have created accidentally, albeit by ourselves. It is a mutation from our albino blue Topaz Guppies. You can see the blue in there still a little bit. And it makes for a really beautiful guppy, honestly. In this 10-gallon aquarium, we have Taiwan lilies, red crypts, and pearlweed. And our last tank in the fish room is the albino threadfin koi guppies. These are in a 10-gallon aquarium that also have a ton of albino Corydora and Taiwan lilies. You can see that one gigantic female who's happy, probably looking for a little food. And all of the younger females and males. The females of the koi really are 2 to 3 times larger than the males. There's a huge size difference with their male and females. Some of the strains is not as significant. This one is very significant.